So for this last task should be 14 or 15. I will try to explain it first and then implement it as well. So for this task, the task is saying that we should implement this route to be able to retrieve some instances or objects of places based on the provided state ID or city's ID or amenities ID. Because we know that with a state ID, we can get a city or cities associated with that place, with that state, and then with a city ID, we can get a place or places associated with that city. So again, the thing here is that the client should only use states to find places or use cities to find places. Because if a client should pass in states ID, so with that states ID, we can get the cities ID. With that cities ID, we can use it to find the places associated with that cities. And if a client should pass in state and cities, we can find the places associated with that state and then find the places associated with the city. But we are going to compare the places that are found in states and the places that are found in cities and make sure there are no duplicate and then return it to the client. And but if the client decide to use amenities, then we will only return any place that has all the amenities listed by the client. The states or cities or amenities from the client would be a dictionary, but with a list of IDs as values. And then lastly, the client can combine states ID and cities ID to retrieve all places related to those IDs. If the client should add amenities ID and there are places found within the states or cities ID, then the amenities ID would not be used to find places. In short, if the client provides both cities and states ID and some place objects are retrieved, or I mean, if the client provides both cities and states ID and some place objects retrieved based on the cities and states criteria, then the amenities ID list won't be used. Meaning that in this scenario, the filtering of place objects will already be based on the cities and states criteria. And the amenities filter will not be applied because it's considered exclusive. So here, when we say that amenities is exclusive, it means that the nature of amenities is in such a way that the amenities IDs can only be used to find places if there are no results generated by the cities and states ID or cities or states ID, or if the cities and states from the client are both empty. That's the only time that we are going to be using the amenities ID to filter out the places. So if the state ID and cities ID are provided, we're not going to be using the amenities ID. And if the state ID and cities ID are provided and we use it to find place ID, we will not be using the amenities ID. But if the cities ID and states ID are empty or we could not use it to find places, then that's the only time we are going to be using the amenities ID. So let's go ahead and implement it. First, we are going to check if request, the content type of the header is application slash JSON. If it's not application slash JSON, you are going to return abort with 404 and the message is not a JSON. And then we are going to check if the request body cannot be passed as a JSON. That is, if the format is incorrect. If the request body cannot be passed as JSON and What we do is return a 400 bad request error with a message indicating it's not JSON. Then next is to extract the JSON data from the request body. That is, if the if it's not empty, we retrieve it. And then if the JSON data is present in the request body, we are going to first check that it's not empty. And then if it's not empty, you're going to extract states, and then you're going to try to extract cities and then amenities. And then the next thing is to check if the JSON body is empty, or at least each list of all keys are empty. So we say if the places or cities or amenities, if all of them are empty, that means we are going to be retrieving all the place objects from the storage. So we just retrieve it, and then you're going next is to convert each place object to a dictionary and add it to the list of places. So we are going to be doing this with a list comprehension. So we say for placing all of the places, and for each place we call to dict method to convert it to a dictionary, and then we return it as a JSON payload. So if this data is not empty, or at least the states or cities or amenities have some values, then we are going to initialize an empty list to store the filtered places. So if the state criteria is provided, that is, if this state has a list of ID, a list of states ID, we are going to check if state is provided, and we are going to pass in the state of ID. We'll look through the IDs with a list comprehension to retrieve all the states associated with that ID. So we are using a list comprehension, and we say for state ID in states, that's this states, we know that this states is a list of states ID from the client, and then we call storage.get and then pass in the state and its ID to retrieve all the states. And then we are going to iterate over the retrieve states, and then we are going to check that if each state exists, and if it exists, we are going to iterate over the cities of that current state. So we also check if the city object exists. If it exists, we are going to iterate over the places in the current city. And then after iterating, we are going to append it to this list of places. And then by so doing, we know that there's a relationship between cities and states and places. So we use the state ID to find the cities and use the cities IDs to find the places, and then we append it to the list of places. And then we are going to do the same for cities if the cities is also provided as well. So we are going to say if cities, that is if the client pass some IDs of cities. So we are going to retrieve the city objects corresponding to the cities IDs passed by the client by using this comprehension. So we say for city ID is cities, and then we call storage.get to retrieve all the cities, and then we are going to iterate over the retrieved objects in the cities, and then we check if the city object exists. Like we did with the states, we are going to also iterate over the places in the current city, and then check if the place is not already in the list of places, because we don't want the places that we are retrieving from the city's ID to be double in this list of places. So we are going to check that this place, every place has to appear once and not twice. So if the place gotten from the city's ID is not already in this list of places gotten from the states, we are going to append the place to the list of places. And then the next one is amenities. So for let me push this down. So for to filter places based on amenity criteria, this is only going to happen if and only if amenity ID is provided, and then if this list places is empty, that is, if there are no places found in the cities and the states, then that's the only time you are going to be using the amenities IDs. So, but we are first going to check if amenity is provided. If there are lists of IDs of amenities, then we are going to check that this list of places is not empty. So if it's empty, it means that this is exclusive search, that we are going to use the IDs of amenities to look for the places. So first we are going to retrieve all the places, and then we are going to retrieve amenity objects corresponding to the amenity IDs provided by the client. So we are going to be using a list comprehension, and we are going to say for amenity ID in amenities, that is for all the IDs provided by the client. Then we are going to call storage.get to retrieve all the amenities, and then we are going to filter all places based on we're going to filter here based on the amenities criteria. So we say for place in all places. As for these amenities, what is happening here is that the only place that we are going to return to the user, the client, is a place that has all the amenities that is provided by the client. If a place does not have all of the amenities, it's not going to be returned. So that's what we check next. We say if all, we first look through all the amenity objects, then we check if this all of the amenity object is in the place of amenities. If it's in there, then we are going to call list of places and then append the place to it. And then finally, we are going to prepare the final list of places for response. So to do that, we are going to initialize an empty list called place to store the process place dictionary. And then we are going to iterate over the place in the list of places. That is, if we are using the list of places of the cities or of the states, we are going to iterate through it. If the cities or states, they are not provided and we are using the list of places gotten from the amenities, we are still going to iterate through it. So for each of the places in the list of places, we are going to call to dict method on it to convert it to a dictionary, and then we are going to remove the amenities key from this dictionary. And then the last thing to do, or second to last thing to do, is to append the process dictionary to this list of places. And then after doing this, we are going to return the list of places in JSON format. And then we need to go and import amenity, then the state. We need to import amenity and state. So we go back up, copy this, and say should be state, yeah, should be lowercase, and here Me. Okay, so we're going to go ahead to test this. So let's test this thing out. I already have my app running here, and I'm going to be using the Thunder client to be making requests. So the route is here API slash v1 slash places underscore search, which is what we have here. So if we send the first request, we are getting bad request, not rejection. And I should paste this here. That's we are providing state and cities, but they are empty. Here, there is it. So this part we are checking. For this check, we are going to return the list of all the places if none of them is provided. And here, see that they are empty. So we should be able to get the list of all places. So if we go down, see that this is a place, and this is also a place, and this is another place. Do we have another one? And this is another place. So let's say we pass in a state ID, or let's use a user ID. If we pass in a user ID, the name is lovely place. Let's see. And if we send, see that we got one lovely place. And let's see state ID. Let me first get states. Okay, this should be a get method. And if I send, let me use Nairobi state ID. And if I go back to places, search, post, and I paste in this state ID, let's see. Okay, we see that we got this, which is the first one, the first place. You see that city ID is different with the city ID, so we know it's related to this state. And the second one, we check the city ID is different with this city ID, so we know it's still related to this state. And then the third one, we see that the city ID is the same with this city ID, so we know it's related. I'm not sure I've created that immunity, but I believe it's going to work. So if you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe if you're yet to do so. That will help this channel. Gracias, amigos.